Hey guys, some of you have asked me for parajumbles with difficult levels in the sense that parajumbles generally again are of two categories, right? Like I've discussed in multiple videos. Ideally speaking, if you are not the average 90 percentile and you are struggling to make it through 80-85 percentile, you have to know which parajumble to pick and which parajumble to not pick. And a very simple way of doing it is to look at the length of the sentences, look at the left side of the four sentences and see if there are any connectors. Check for proper nouns, dates, conclusion indicators, chronological indicators, a bunch of things that I've discussed in all the videos. If you have the patience, you watch it, you'll get all of those tips. And there is obviously the CR rules. But for people who want to get 95 percentile, 99 percentile, upwards of that, you can't afford to leave out even a single parajumble question. You will have to attempt all the three, right? And that's where the struggle starts, because invariably there'll be one parajumble that's almost impossible to solve. You give it to the person who set the question. After a few months, even that person might get it wrong. That's largely because parajumble is not a technically sound question. I don't know why they use it, because grammatically there's no way to prove that that's the only possible order of those four sentences, to be honest. Even if you ask the writer, for example, the writer would have written it. If someone who's written for publications, myself, I can tell you that four independent sentences can be written in any order, right? Doesn't make sense. And in most cases, four sentences in complicated ideas are rarely one paragraph, coherent paragraph, first of all, okay? Coherent paragraphs will have 5-6 sentences. You can't end the idea in about 4 sentences. So I'm not a big fan of this model, like I keep saying. But anyway, since we have to solve it in the exam, there are a few ways in which you can save your time, make quicker decisions, increase your probability. I'll not promise you that you will be able to solve parajumbles like some of the other videos seem to be doing on YouTube. That the moment you know these tips, you will be able to, bet your property on it and get it right. That's not going to happen. Parajumbles is just people lying to you. No one will bet their property on solving a difficult parajumble and getting it right. That's not possible, okay? Because grammatically or logically, there are only rules, but there is no hard and fast rule in parajumble per se, because you can never tell which order of those four independent sentences is correct. But since you have to solve it, there are a few guidelines that I can give you. In this particular video, I've picked up a lot of independent sentence parajumbles, okay, where there aren't too many connectors, there aren't any connections from one sentence to the other sentence. You'll have to read the sentences, identify the idea. Basically, you cannot use grammar now. You have to use CR. There will be a little grammar. There'll be a few grammar clues here and there, like the and another, other, just, even. These kind of words also help you sometimes, but mostly critical reasoning you'll have to use to be able to get the order. But before I explain, I'll quickly show you. This is question number 1. You can pause the video, and solve each of these questions. This is question 1, question 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so these are the 5 questions, and my sincere request to you is, please don't be stubborn with the time. Fix it, okay? 10 minutes max for all the 5, because it's useless if you get all 5 right but you've taken 20 minutes. It's useless. It doesn't tell you anything. That whole thing, let me get it right and then I'll reduce the time, doesn't work in CAT, especially in the 40-minute paper. So if you really want to know how you're going to do well in CAT, how you're going to do with parajumbles in CAT, don't take more than 2 minutes for any of these 5 questions. So that's basically a 10-minute timeline that you will have to set, and then figure out if you're going to score the marks or not. Now we'll go to the explanations. Question number 1, if you notice, but that ambitious inquiry cannot even be legitimately begun until a prior task of analysis and detailed comparison has been accomplished. Irrespective of where this negative connector is, it could be in the first sentence, it could be second, third, fourth. One of my favorite habits is to start reading the 4 and because they're jumbled up, right? Doesn't matter whether you start reading from first sentence or second or third or fourth. You can read 3, 4 and then 1, 2. You can read 2, 3, 4 and then 1. You can start reading from anywhere because they're jumbled up. I'm a big fan of starting with the negative connector sentence wherever it is, because straight away tells you what is needed in front of it. So if you start with this sentence, you will also go looking for what else can come in front of it. So in the first round of reading itself, you'll be able to make your mandatory pair. Okay. So, but that ambitious inquiry cannot even be legitimately begun until a prior task of analysis and detailed comparison has been accomplished. This is your major clue. This is going to be a very difficult question, actually, even though there is a negative connector in it, because as you notice, there's nothing else. There is also an and positive connector, but it's not, you're going to still get confused about this question because of the density of the subject, which is why I'm a big fan of people reading a lot. But anyway, look at it. That ambitious inquiry. Okay, so this sentence, that ambitious inquiry cannot be legitimately begun. Okay, you can stop reading here until whatever the condition is, but that ambitious inquiry cannot even be legitimately begun, can only come after a sentence that has some kind of questioning or inquiry or some task. Okay, keep that in your mind. It will no doubt remain abstractly possible to raise the question whether the preponderant effect of one or another large movement, which has been called by the name, was good or bad. Okay, search for clues like these in difficult questions. Clues like these are very important. The name, okay, which means this sentence can only come after some sentence which gives you clarity on what the name is. You cannot have the definite article followed by a common noun unless a proper noun that where this can fit will come. For example, the country is known for its beautiful beaches. The country has to come after some sentence which has a proper noun country name, right? Same logic. So some name you're looking for. This is an open-ended question. This is an open-ended question. When a romanticism has been analyzed into the distinct strains or ideas which compose it, the true philosophic affinity is liking for something, and anyone who's good with, which is why again vocabulary is very important. Preponderance and affinity are kind of synonyms of each other. Okay, affinity is F-I-N-I-S, same root word as finish, finite, infinite, right? It means a boundary. Affinity is getting attracted towards someone else's boundary, basically. So the true philosophic affinities and the eventual practical influence in life and art of these several strains will usually be found to be exceedingly diverse and often conflicting. So the keywords here being romanticism has been analyzed into distinct strains. They'll be diverse and they'll be conflicting. That's the idea. That's it. All of this is elaboration. So pick up the keywords, which is why it's important in critical reading to pick up the keywords, the nouns. Okay, diverse is obviously diverse and conflicting here are not nouns, they are adjectives. But again, that's all. The main nouns are romanticism and strains. What is the author talking about them? That they are diverse and conflicting. Done. So this is your independent sentence. Keep it aside. And when this has been done, I doubt whether the larger question will seem to have much importance or meaning. This has been done, which means some task is being spoken about. Where did we talk about task? We spoke about task here. Until a prior task of analysis and detailed comparison has been accomplished. Accomplished synonym with done, isn't it? So this is your first step. You will have to understand that 1-4 is a logical block. That's how you solve difficult questions. You do not worry about the starting sentence of the paragraph. You do not worry about the ending sentence of the paragraph. You search for the pair of sentences, and there'll always be a clue to give you the pair. Doesn't matter where these two could be the first two sentences, last two sentences, doesn't matter. But you know that 1-4 is a block because he's talking about a prior task of analysis, and when this has been done, I doubt whether the larger question will seem to have much importance or meaning. Which is the larger question? Someone's asking you to asking about a question, right? There is a larger question here, isn't it? It will no doubt remain abstractly possible to raise the question. Abstractly possible, abstract, not concrete. Abstractness doesn't have a shape. Again, why vocab is important. That's why it's the larger question, which means this question has to come before, because I doubt whether the larger question will seem, the larger question means some larger question has been asked, which is this. Therefore, 2 has to come somewhere in front of 4, but 1-4 is a block. So 2 comes to the left of 1-4. Okay, you'll have to be able to make that connection. It will no doubt remain abstractly possible to raise the question. But then there is the name. The name is obviously romanticism because it's the only proper noun name, which means 3 comes to the left of 2. So the order for this particular question will be 3, 2, 1, 4. The things that you have to catch up, just a quick recap. Okay, why difficult questions are difficult to solve even when there are clues is because there are vocab connections. You'll have to make the connection between task of analysis and when this has been done. The larger question and abstractly possible to raise the question. The name and romanticism. And if you notice, we still don't know what the paragraph is actually talking about. You don't need to care sometimes. You read it, obviously. You don't need to understand. I'm not saying you don't need to. It's amazing if you can, because you can form, you can form more coherence. But sometimes it'll take multiple readings for you to understand what the paragraph is trying to say. But there are some obvious things that you can connect because these are like impossibilities. In LR language, for example, these are called anchor statements or anchor clues, right? A sits immediately to the right of B, if they say, right? You always write B and A like this, and you do this, right? When you're solving LR seating arrangement questions or whatever, or two places to the right of B or 2 places to the left of B. How? So this is like that. The name has to come to the right of some name. There could be a gap here. Okay, I'm not saying 3, 2 has to be together. By the way, don't make a block just because the name is there. Wherever you put 2, somewhere to the left of 2, the name has to come. Okay, that's how the works. Need not be immediately, but because 2 has to come to the left of 1 4, and 2 has to come to the left of 1 4 because 1 4 is talking about, you know, a task being accomplished. It will no doubt remain abstractly possible to raise the question whether the preponderant effect was good or bad. But that ambitious inquiry is raising the question. Ambitious inquiry, raising the question, the larger questions are all referring to the same thing. That's why you get the order easily, actually, if you be able to catch it. It's a tricky question because it takes a lot of time to read, but it's also one of those questions where you're paying attention becomes an easier question. Okay, let's move on to the next one. In terms of observable behavior, the crucial distinction between a politically developed society and an underdeveloped one is the number, size, and effectiveness of its organizations. Okay, this is what you call an independent sentence. Also, this question should teach you. This is an independent sentence because in this sentence you don't have any pronouns, you don't have the, you don't have any negative or positive connectors at the beginning of the sentence. You know, you have no references to other sentences. You can understand the sentence completely on its own. This question will teach you that independent sentences need not always be the first sentence of the paragraph. Okay, so in terms of observable behavior, the crucial distinction between a politically developed society and an underdeveloped one is the number, size, and effectiveness of its organizations. Okay, in modern countries, in de Tocqueville's words, the science of association is the mother of science. The progress of all the rest depends upon the progress it has made. So this sentence is about the science of association. Okay, again, independent sentence, keep it aside. If social and economic change undermine or destroy traditional basis of association, the achievement of a high level of political development depends upon the capacity of the people to develop new forms of association. So if social economic change, if change destroys association, the high level of political development depends upon people to develop new forms. If old forms of association have been destroyed, people have to form new forms of association. Okay. Mutual distrust and truncated is something that's cut short. Truncated loyalties mean little organization. You'll have to understand little and few here. I keep repeating, I've repeated a few times already. If there is an A in front of you or little, it's positive. If there's no A in front of you and little, it means negative. In other words, I have little respect for you means zero. Little means zero without A. I have little respect for you means I have zero respect for you. I have a little respect for you, positive, compliment. So the compliment actually becomes an insult if you miss out on the A, isn't it? So I have little respect for you means I have some respect for you. I have a little respect for you. Sorry, I have a little respect for you, some respect. I have little respect for you means I have nothing. Similarly, there are a few people here means some people are there. There are few people here means nobody is there. Okay, one of those quirks of English. Some things in English absolutely don't make sense, which is why it is. It's one of the elite, privileged, patriarchal structures in society. Okay, deeply embedded and entrenched. So I'm not a big fan of this language either. But you have to learn it to actually eventually be able to fix it or move beyond it, or change society or whatever other ambitious things you want to do apart from selling washing powder after an MBA. But anyway, mutual distrust and truncated loyalties mean little organization. Means mutual trust and truncated loyalties means there's no organization. Okay, this is obvious, right? Distrust is a negative word. Truncated loyalty means it's obviously not loyal anymore. Infidelity, basically. Mutual distrust and truncated loyalties mean no organization. Okay, this is also an independent sentence. So 4 independent sentences. What do you go about? In 4 independent sentences, we have CR rules, isn't it? So you always look for bigger and smaller ideas. Okay, which is the bigger idea, which is a small idea, because bigger ideas tend to come before smaller ideas. Isn't it? All paragraphs are written in an inverted pyramid structure. So bigger ideas. What do you mean by bigger ideas? Where can you write a bigger essay? Okay. For example, something like a World Cup is bigger, can have a bigger essay compared to a bilateral series, right? The Grand Slam in tennis is bigger essay than say one particular French Open, let's say, isn't it? So the Grand Slam sentence has to come before the French Open sentence. You won't write the French Open sentence and then the Grand Slam sentence. And these rules apply only when there are no grammar connections. Grammar does not listen to these rules, so you'll have to be a little careful. But otherwise, bigger ideas come before smaller ideas in independent sentences. And the theory sentences come before the example sentences, or they're called lateral arguments, right? So upstream arguments and lateral arguments. So upstream is bigger ideas, vague ideas. The vaguest sentence always comes at the top, because once you start giving me the story, the vague sentence won't make any sense. I already know the story. So what's the point of putting a vague sentence in the end? So vague sentences, broad sentences, generalized sentences, bigger ideas come at the top. Problems come before solutions, for example. Events come before consequences, for example, right? So you'll have to use a little common sense here. Education comes before MBA, for example, like that. Okay. So society, for example, is a bigger idea than an individual, right? So if there are two things that are talking about, one is talking about social change and one is talking about an individual change. Social change, bigger idea. So you'll have to be a little watchful about what the sentence is talking about. Now, if you look at these four sentences, okay, number, size, and effectiveness of its organizations versus the idea of organization itself. So 4 is a bigger idea than 1. You'll have to understand this first, isn't it? There are many organizations. That's, if you notice, the meaning of this word itself is different in these two sentences. Organization here is a countable entity. Organization here is the idea of coming together, getting together. So obviously, vocab, again, this is why it's so important. Organization versus organizations. This here is an idea. This here is a countable noun. So mutual distrust and truncated loyalties mean little organization, means that there is no organization. In terms of observable behavior, crucial distinction between a politically developed society and an underdeveloped one is the number, size, effectiveness of its organizations. So going a little deeper, what is the advantage of how many organizations are there? What is the number? What is the size? What is the effectiveness? Then we can differentiate between politically developed societies and underdeveloped ones. Also, this is more vague, isn't it? We don't know what the author is talking about here. Here, we know what the author is talking about. Once the author comes to this point, this is a useless sentence, isn't it? Unless the paragraph is building towards this. See, 4 can come in front of 1. In which case, this is a bigger idea. When will this be a bigger idea? When the idea is about politically developed society, and then the effectiveness of organizations matter. But if there is mutual distrust and loyalties in those organizations, then society will go bad, and then there will be cons of organizations with mutual distrust and truncated loyalties. But if you notice, these two sentences are not talking about. These two are also big ideas, right? Therefore, I know that 4 is talking about organization in general. Then we are talking about politically developed society, which is also a kind of an organization, isn't it? Society itself is organizing, isn't it? So 4 is a bigger idea than 1. That you'll have to understand. Now, if social and economic change, and then you're talking about this guy's words, the science of association is the mother of all sciences, mother of science. The progress of all the rest depends upon the progress it has made. So we are talking about the science of association. Remember, association and organization are kind of synonyms of each other. If social and economic change undermine or destroy traditional basis of association, the achievement of high level of political development. See, if you notice, high level of political development here is a follow-up of this, because here this is where politically developed society has been introduced, right? So the achievement of high level of political development depends upon capacity of the people to develop new forms of association. So association has been introduced here. How do I know that? Because this idea starts with how high level of political development can happen. How do I know 3 comes after 1? Because we are introducing politically developed society here. Only after we talk about the idea of a politically developed society compared to an underdeveloped one, bigger idea, politically developed society versus underdeveloped society. How do we get a politically developed society with new forms of association? And why is association important? Because the progress of the science of association is important for all the other forms of association. That's how it works, isn't it? But this one talks about the idea of organization itself, organization, and how mutual distrust and truncated loyalties are not good for it. And therefore, observable behavior. The distinction between politically developed society and underdeveloped one is the number, size, and effectiveness of its organizations, which is a different word from organization, isn't it? So the order, obviously, as you know, 4 is a much bigger idea than 1. 1 is a bigger idea than 3, isn't it? 3 is a bigger idea than 2. 2 is your, in modern words, the words of some very good conclusion sentence, because we end paragraphs or begin paragraphs with quotes generally. So it doesn't make much sense to put it in the middle unless I'm explaining this further. So this is an easy decision to make, putting 2 in the end. The 1 and 3 is the big decision to make. Okay, so the order for this particular paragraph parajumble is 4, 1, 3, 2. Even today, we are not immune to catastrophic cosmic insults. Colon means elaboration of the left side on the right side. Killer asteroids, comets still cross Earth's orbit from time to time. Okay, so this is this elaboration of cosmic insults. What do you mean by cosmic insult? Okay, cosmic insult, this is in literature we call it rhetoric, okay, drama or hyperbole. It's not actually an insult per se, but we are talking about this being an insult on the size of our life, isn't it? So even today we are not immune, okay, we are not safe to catastrophic cosmic insults. Independent sentence. The moon remains a luminous reminder that the cosmos is a place of intertwined creation and destruction. Again, independent sentence. If human survival is our greatest collective imperative is something that we need to do, something that's a necessity. Please remember these words, okay? It's very important you remember these words. They're commonly used difficult words. They will keep popping up in passages. As a species, if human survival is our greatest collective imperative as a species, then we would do well to keep watching the skies, For our nearest cosmic neighbor offers mute testimony. While change is usually gradual and benign, there can be really bad days. If you have gone through those sentence structure sentences, you should be able to break down sentences like these. This is a classic complex sentence. This for here is like a because. Replace the for with because in your head, but otherwise you should be able to read it the same way. This is a complex sentence. If x comma y structure. If human survival is our greatest collective imperative as a species, if that is our purpose, then we could do well to keep watching the skies. The idea ends there. If x is important for us, then we should be doing y. Because our nearest cosmic neighbor offers mute testimony. Our nearest cosmic neighbor, who's our nearest cosmic neighbor is the question. Okay, which means somewhere before this, we all, because we have so many, we can have so many cosmic neighbors, right? Which means somewhere that neighbor has already been spoken. Now, you can also ask this question here as to why not the vague explanation come before the specific explanation. Moon obviously is our cosmic neighbor here, okay? So you know that the moon sentence has to come before this sentence. But the question that you should be asking is, in one of the earlier questions I had mentioned that the vague sentence comes at the top and the specific sentence comes later. That is with respect to ideas, critical reasoning, if you remember. Okay, sometimes people take these rules and then they get confused and they're like, why this, why that? And then they post comments. So please watch the video again and again. You have to understand every word of every rule. The rules come with context. Okay, you can't just take a rule out of the context and then start applying it everywhere. That's not how it works, right? Rules come with the context. You have to remember the context. A vague idea comes before a specific idea. When there is no grammar, this is not an idea. Okay, a reference needs to be told. The way the works, for example, in the first question, the name and romanticism came first, right? Like that. So the moon, if I know the moon, then I know who's our nearest cosmic neighbor. Otherwise, nearest cosmic neighbor won't make sense. This particular sentence won't make sense. So I know that somewhere 2 is greater than 3. 2 has to come to the left of 3. But the moon's giving us some mute testimony, right? What is that? What testimony is that? Colon again. So elaboration. While change is usually gradual and benign is harmless, there can be really bad days, which the inference basically is that moon has had bad days. Okay. Most days the change is very slow, but there have been massive changes in a very small, short periods of time. That's the inference. Inference is basically unsaid stuff. That's also true. The author meant to tell you. Millions of years, which you would actually understand from the CR videos. I hope you watched them. Millions of years ago, one big rock killed the dinosaurs. Semicolon, millions of years from now, other big rocks will inevitably find their mark. This is what I call the example sentence. If you remember the CR rules, the example sentence always comes after the theory sentence. This is your theory sentence. Okay, cosmic insult. So I know that 1 and 4, one block. Not necessarily a mandatory block. I can squeeze in other stuff here because there's no grammar connect, but 4 comes to the right of 1 basically. Okay, this is how it works. 4 comes to the right of 1. Even today, we are not immune to catastrophic cosmic insults. And 2 comes to the left of 3. Now, how do we arrange this? 2 comes to the left of 3 and 1 comes to the, left of 4. What is 1 talking about? Even today, we are not immune to catastrophic cosmic insults. What are those cosmic insults millions of years ago? How those rocks can matter. And now we are talking about what we should do, okay, like a consequence, right? Later, if human survival is important for us, we have to keep watching the skies. Right. So if human survival is our greatest collective imperative as a species, then we would do well to keep watching the skies, because while change is gradual and benign, there can be really bad days. So you know that these two are both talking about how we are in danger. One is the much bigger idea of danger, right? So 1, 1, 4, 3, 1, 3, 4, that is like one block. The moon remains a luminous reminder that the cosmos is a place of intertwined creation and destruction. Okay. Now the rest of the paragraph is all about destruction, which means I can't put the creation word anywhere in the middle of the paragraph. So even if you did not catch the moon and cosmic neighbor connection, creation and destruction you should be able to make, because creation has not been spoken about anywhere else in the paragraph, which means it should be on the outside, because the whole paragraph can't be in destruction in the middle. You can't sneak in a word called creation. Okay, that's another reason why 2 starts the paragraph. Done. And then we are not immune to catastrophic cosmic insults. So 2 and 1 and 4. The big question now that you have to ask is, where will 3 go? 3 will go here, or 3 will go here, or 3 will go here. Okay, that's the question. You have to ask for each individual statement, right? Which means if I have to put 3 here, you have to ask, is 3 a bigger idea than 1? Okay, if human survival is our greatest collective imperative, we would do well to keep watching the skies. Okay, why would we do well to keep watching the skies? Because something from the sky can fall on us. You can answer that question. Therefore, we would do well to keep watching the skies, because even today we are not immune to catastrophic cosmic insults. Have you noticed, if I have to put 1 after 3, I have to start this sentence with something that connects to 3, because we would do well to keep watching the skies. Even today, we are not immune to catastrophic cosmic insults. We would do well to keep watching the skies because even today, we are not immune to catastrophic cosmic insults. That's the first subtle clue, okay, that one won't come after 3. Let's say you didn't catch it. It's absolutely fine. Even today, okay, even today, we are not immune to catastrophic cosmic insults. Millions of years ago and millions of years from now, other big rocks will inevitably find their mark. So if you notice, they're all chronology, past and future, okay? Even today, we are not safe. In the future, if human survival is our imperative as a species, if you have to survive, we would do well. Future, if we need to do this, this is what we need. We're not safe even today. In order to survive in the future, which means again chronology wise 3 comes later, okay, that's one more clue for you. The 3 can't come here, 3 has to come after 1, okay. Let's say you didn't catch even that clue, you missed out on that one also. Then notice the moon remains a luminous reminder that the cosmos is a place of intertwined creation and destruction, okay. Millions of years ago, one big rock killed the dinosaurs. Millions of years from now, other big rocks will inevitably find their mark. If I'm saying that millions of years from now, we'll still be getting hit by asteroids, there is no point of saying even today. Okay, this even today makes sense only if we come before, if we put it before this sentence. So 1 comes to the left of 4. Even today means even after all these years, even so the inference is that even though we are developed, even though Earth has survived, whatever, even today we are not immune to catastrophic cosmic insults, and this is what happens. Since we are not immune, this is the danger. This is the solution to the problem, if you notice, and problems always come before solutions. We are not immune, therefore we have to keep watching the skies, because see, the because is that's the importance of understanding for us, because if you did not catch this for us, because in your head you'll create your own story. If human survival is important, we would do well to keep watching the skies. We should watch the skies because we are not immune to catastrophic cosmic insults. Fits perfectly in your head, which is why you'll end up putting 1 after 3. But you remember, there's no space for that because there's already a because here. Our nearest cosmic neighbor offers testimony. Okay, therefore this, which means this has to come to the left of 1. 3 different reasons why 1 should come to the left of 3. Okay, and why 1 should come to the left of 4. Therefore, the order for this particular question will be 2, 1, 4, and 3. This is the easiest of all the questions, partly because there are 1 or 2 very obvious clues, even though they look like independent sentences. For example, they whipped up resistance and sedition. Sedition is going against the state, against the authority. Sed you would have also seen in sediment, for example, something separating out. They whipped up resistance and sedition that the Roman army found hard to fight. So the big question obviously is, who's they? They is obviously, as you would have understood if you've solved this question, Druids and Druids. We're talking about Druids here. A particular sect, okay, or a group. They whipped up resistance and sedition that the Roman army found hard to fight. A great many Greek and Roman writers mentioned them with a mixture of awe, fear, disgust, and respect. The Druids have long allured, which is an independent sentence, a thorn in the side of Rome because they exerted sufficient influence in ancient Britain and Gaul to threaten the expansion of the Roman Empire. The Druids were a shadowy class of priests, religious leaders, even freedom fighters. This is also an independent sentence. Now, why this question is in this particular video and why I think it's a difficult question, if you got it right, good job. Why it's a tricky question is because them and they are pronouns. They need to come after the sentence that has the nouns. But you cannot figure out from this particular question that this they and them will come after 3 or 4 because both have the term Druids in it. The Druids. We're talking about the groups. In both cases, they have been introduced, which is the tricky part. And if you just randomly assume that, okay, them is there, therefore 3-2 or 3-1 or 4-2 or 4-1, you made a big mistake, obviously. Even if you got it right after that, I'm not happy with it. You have to always ask, is it 3-2 or 4-2? Is it 3-1 or 4-1, right? Because this also has Druids. That's the first thing you'll have to know. If there are multiple sentences with the same keyword, and there's a pronoun referring to that keyword, you have to consider all the possibilities. You can't just assume, okay? Second thing is a thorn in the side of Rome because they exist. A lot of people look at this day and think, hey, 1 more pronoun. This happens to you guys a lot in Parajumples questions. I know it because I know how high the percentages of inaccuracies are in some of the mocks that I've made, all India mocks that I've made in the past. But anyway, the thorn in the side of Rome because they exerted sufficient influence in ancient Britain and Gaul to threaten the expansion of the Roman Empire. This is allowed. This they is allowed if the same sentence has the keyword. So this is why this is an independent sentence. This they does not need Druids outside. A thorn in the side of Rome because they exerted sufficient influence. The Druids were a shadowy class of priests. Okay. feared by every team in the world. The Indians do play a very high quality brand of cricket. Indians are the they. I don't need this sentence to come after some other sentence with Indians in it. The second part is giving me. So I can use a pronoun in the first part of a sentence and refer to it in the same sentence if the noun's given. Okay, please remember this. So 4 is an absolutely independent sentence. Now the big question is, between 3 and 4, what should come first? Very obviously 3 has to come before 4. If you remember the CR rules, is where CR helps. Vague sentence comes before the specific sentence. The Druids have long allured. Allure means something that attracts but is out of your reach. Now the question you could ask is, why not define who the Druids are? The Druids were a shadowy class of priests, religious leaders, even freedom fighters. The Druids have long allured. Okay, why not this? If I want to do that, I'll say they have long allured, because it's coming right after this particular sentence, which means these two sentences are not back to back. They are broken up. That's the other clue for you. Remember, the pronoun sentence comes immediately after the noun sentence. Okay. So if I'm just talking about them, they, it'll just break up straight away, right? Like we have they, so excuse me, they have a they here, isn't it? So now watch out for this. A great many Greek and Roman writers mentioned them, not they. It's an object. This is why grammar is important. Subject versus object. Mentioned whom. So you have two Druids and two different types of pronouns. Okay. This is like pronoun as an object. This is pronoun as a subject. Okay. So the Druids have long allured, a thorn in the side of Rome, because they exerted sufficient influence in ancient Britain and Gaul to threaten the expansion of the Roman Empire. The Druids were a shadowy class of priests, religious leaders, even freedom fighters. Here, if you notice, they are a thorn in the side of Rome. Okay, that's been mentioned, because they exert sufficient influence in ancient Britain and Gaul to threaten the expansion of the Roman Empire. Here they're talking about Roman army. Okay, much smaller idea. The empire versus the army, isn't it? That's one thing you'll have to understand, that 4 is a bigger idea than 1. They whipped up resistance and sedition that the Roman army found hard to fight. I can't put Roman army before this, because only here he's talking about why they're thorn in the side of Rome itself. Why they troubled the Roman army. Roman army is a much smaller idea than the empire itself. Here they're giving you reasons for why they were trouble for Rome itself and the Roman Empire itself, isn't it? So 1 comes after 4. Next, a great many Greek and Roman writers mentioned them with a mixture of awe, fear, disgust, and respect. It's a very vague sentence again, which does not connect to these two. It connects to this, because here we are just establishing that the Druids have been spoken about, but they're also mysterious, allure, isn't it? So 3 and 2, 1 block. 4 and 1, 1 block. The Druids have long allured. Great many Roman writers have mentioned them. Okay, so 3-2 is 1 block. 4-1 is 1 block. Right, now the big question that people will also ask is, why not 4-1 and 3-2? Right, a thorn in the side of Rome. The Druids were shadowy class of priests, even and freedom fighters. They whipped up resistance and sedition that the Roman army found hard to fight. 4-1 perfect block. The Druids have long allured. A great many Greek and Roman writers mentioned them with a mixture of awe, fear, disgust, and respect. Okay, you can actually pause the video, think about it yourself, and try to answer this question. Is there any clue here that tells you why not this and that? Okay, you have to, if I put 4-1, they whipped up resistance and sedition that the Roman army found hard to fight. Okay, we are talking about fighting. Suddenly, where did we come to allure? Allure is a much vaguer idea, isn't it? So we can't go 4-1-3-2, because it breaks CR rules, which is that I can't talk about how in a practical way they were a problem for the Roman army, then say they have long allured and writers have written about them. So what? Question mark. So 2 doesn't end the paragraph, right? They whipped up resistance sedition that the Roman army found hard to fight. On the other hand, 3-2, they have always allured. People have always written about them. Hey, these were the people. Definition is coming here, right? We actually know what are Druids from here, not from these two. So the vague sentences come first, and then basic CR, that's it, right? Druids were a shadowy class of priests, and the whipped up resistance sedition, what they did, right? So 4-1 later makes more sense than 4-1 block in the beginning. Now, this is where some of you got the order incorrect. We'll have a general issue, okay? It's not a bad issue and a bad question to have, which is that, hey, I'm not convinced. Why can't it be this? Remember, you can't ask this question in CAT, and CAT, in this kind of stuff happens in CAT, and the only logic CAT gives you is the 4 sentences were together in whichever article we found it in, right? Which is why I say I'm not a big fan of para-jumbles. But what I'm trying to give you is see, the rules clearly apply here. If you follow the rules, the CR rules, you'll not make a mistake here actually. You would have made a mistake here, and you have put 4 and 3-2 only if you are creating your own novel in your head, which is why I'm not a big fan of people creating the story for para-jumbles. The highest probability of getting parajumbles right is when you're actually following grammar and CR rules. And even then you can get it wrong because sometimes they're confusing, but that's your best chance. Okay. You can go round and round wasting time and then cribbing and, complaining about as to why this order may be true. It's not going to give you marks anyway, isn't it? Which is why I'm also not a big fan of people breaking grammar rules and randomly making connections. Okay, if you know that they is subject and them is object, you'll be able to understand that there are two druids and there are two different pronouns, so it means you get two different blocks. That is one mistake you should not be able to, you should be able to catch, right? You should be able to know that 3-2 is one block and 4-1 is one block, because army and empire versus writers writing and Allure, isn't it? So 3-2 and 4-1 blocks you should be able to make. The druids are separated, you should be able to make three. If you put 3 and 4 together, that's a basic grammar mistake. You have no right to complain about the wrong answer at all. You made a grammar mistake. So 3 and 4 generally won't come next to each other. So these all will lower the possibility of your getting it wrong. But in the end, you'll do all the hard work. You'll get 3-2 block. You'll get 4-1 block. These are the people my heart goes out to. I'm really sorry that sometimes you do the hard work and don't get marks. I understand. You'll have to also know you're not going to like make the situation better by saying by arguing that 4-1 has to come in front of 3-2, vice versa, right? Because once you go and Google it, you'll find the order yourself, and there's nothing to argue. Which is why you have to know the CR rules. Reduce the probability of getting it wrong. You may do all the hard work, apply the CR rules, and then still miss out on something and still get it wrong, which is why fast reading is important. So that if you can solve a parajumble question in about 1.5 minutes, you're solving 3 parajumbles in about 4.5, 5 minutes. You get 1 wrong and you get 2 right because you follow all the rules and you've done all the hard work. You get 6 marks in 5 minutes. 6 marks in about 5 minutes is awesome, because if you do 5 into 8, you're basically in the vicinity of 100 percentile or 99.9 percentile, right? Which is why you're always trying to score 1 mark per minute if you're a 99 percentile, rather than just worrying. Because parajumble is, I agree, I empathize with you, that parajumbles you can never be 100% sure, but these are the rules. Okay, and this is how it works. So anyway, I hope you get why 3, 2 and 4, 1 is the order for this particular question. This is a not so difficult question, if you ask me. Not easy either. There's one big decision that you'll have to make if you got it right, and I'm a big fan of people knowing why they made certain decisions, consistency of the decisions. So if you notice, more specifically is an interesting connector. Okay, we are talking about experiences. So this sentence comes after some sentence which introduces experiences, because more specifically we are talking about experiences in which one's INT, personhood, humanity are fundamentally injured, especially in infancy or childhood, is an example sentence. We're talking about the abstract idea of experience because this has the example. That's why we have more specifically. So watch out for this. Because mind is understood as inherently interpersonal and social in the relational intersubjective model, there is no need to hypothesize external causes for what are then internal problems. Okay. Now, a lot of you would look at because and think two is not an independent sentence and put it later. And that's your big mistake, because a because sentence is a complex sentence, and a complex sentence is still an independent sentence. A paragraph can start with if, an essay can start with if, an essay can start with because these days as well. Okay. Because this because is not pointing to the left. Because cannot point to the left to another sentence. If I have to do that, I'll have to use however or some other, they're called conjunctive adverbs, however, besides, comma. This is a basic conjunction. It's connecting two clauses. Okay. Mind is understood as inherently interpersonal and social in the relational intersubjective model. There is no need to hypothesize external causes. So basically the sentence is, there is no need to hypothesize external causes for what are internal problems, because mind is understood as inherently interpersonal. That's the sentence. So because comes in the middle, because comes in the left side of the sentence, doesn't matter. So if you made the mistake that this is not an independent sentence because the sentence starts because grammatical problem, you got it wrong, you got the question wrong because grammar is an issue for you. So make sure you read enough to understand this stuff. Okay, I hope after today at least you will not make those mistakes. So this is what we call an independent sentence. Okay, in other words, again, not an independent sentence, experiences of others and the world can be seen as inherently distressing, and it is these that are seen as primary in understanding most mental distress. So much bigger idea, experience of others and the world. Specifically, we are talking about experience in which all these happen, isn't it? So 3-1 is a block, more specifically is the connector. Therefore, 3-1 is a mandatory pair. They have to be together. In other words, which means something comes before 3 and 1. Rather is a negative connector, which is a contrast to the previous idea. Social and interpersonal realities are immediately a part of a person's emotional and psychological state. We don't need to hypothesize external causes. We need to talk about internal problems, and that is immediately a part of person's emotional and psychological state. Okay, so 2 4 is a block, 3 1 is a block. Okay, in other words is there, therefore 2 4 is greater than 3 1, therefore 2 4 3 1 is your paragraph. So the lessons are, a paragraph can start with because, an independent sentence can start with because. Number one, rather is a contrast marker from the left side to the right side. We don't need to hypothesize this. Rather, we need to understand that social and interpersonal realities are immediately internal. These two are connected. Okay, more specifically, we're talking about experiences with an example. I'll also teach you one last rule before we end this particular video, which is what we call outside to inside. Okay, external causes versus internal problems. The rest of the paragraph is all about internal problems. So if you start the paragraph with something external, then move on to internal. The rest of the sentence are all internal. The external part comes outside. Okay, for example, if I start with something like, of all the cities in the world, of all the cities in the world, Paris is my favorite. Okay, so we are introducing Paris in the second part of the sentence. And the next sentence is Paris is the capital of France. Paris is the capital of France comes second, because I can't say Paris is the capital of France and then go outside of all the cities in the world, then say Paris is my favorite. Okay, a lot of people end up putting Paris as the capital of France first because independent sentence, introduction, whatnot, which is why you should get it out of your head. The introduction sentence and independent sentence always start the paragraph. The external part that is irrelevant to the rest of the paragraph goes to the left. Yeah, that's what's happening here. There is no need to hypothesize external causes, and all of this is also not spoken about in the paragraph. We are only focusing on this because this is internal, right? So 2 comes to the left. So the answer for this particular question will be 2 4 3 1. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you learned a thing or two from this. I hope you're practicing. I hope you're reading a lot, and I hope you also remember the whole time work. The time strictness or whatever time discipline that I talk about. 2 minutes per question. Parasamples. You cannot really go faster than, you cannot really go slower than that. And please do share the video links or whatever with people who don't have access to good teaching or whatever, because it's an unfortunate scenario where a lot of a big chunk of your performance actually depends on which city you are in and what kind of teaching you have access to, which is very unfair, and kind of propagates a certain privilege and advantage of that. So if one of the reasons why I make these videos is so that people who don't have access to teachers but are really smart get a chance to learn this stuff. So if you know people like that, please do share or whatever, help out other people. If you already got it, if you're lucky enough to be someone who's actually really good at one subject, please help other people. Don't be really selfish. Spread the knowledge. Okay, and I think I would like to believe, although I don't have scientific evidence, that all the good stuff that you send into the universe finds a way of coming back to you at some point in time. Anyway, until next time, peace out.